Good morning, LCC kids. Happy Sunday. We're back again for another lesson video together. But you know, we always have these crazy games that we jump into, and I hope you're ready to go bananas, because today's game is bananas for scale. Imagine if you had to measure everything, the height, the weight, the length, just using bananas. Put away your rulers, put away inches and feet, and bust out your produce. And let's see if you can figure out what these items, how they're measured in the scale of bananas. Let's do our first one. How many bananas high is a 6-foot tall person? So, you know how tall he is. He's 6 feet. You got that information already. Convert it to the average banana. So do you think a 6-foot tall man would be 13 bananas high or 10 bananas high? Picture it in your head. Go ahead and shout out. And let's find out. 10. 10 bananas. All right. How many bananas long is a banana-colored school bus? 60 or 100? Do you ride the school bus? Maybe you don't, but maybe you still know how many bananas. Shout out now, because we're about to reveal 60 bananas long. Okay. How much does a zebra weigh in bananas? 1,940, 3,086. Who are we kidding? We're all just guessing at this one. Let's go ahead and show them. 1,940 bananas. Bananas might be heavier than you think. How many bananas high is the Statue of Liberty? Do you know how many feet high it is? That'd be a place to start. And then you could run back in your mind and convert that 6-foot tall man in terms of 10 bananas. But anyway, Mr. Luke Collins is giving you the answer. It's 259 bananas high for the Statue of Liberty. All right, we'll come back to our bananas for scale game. We're going to hear a story in the Bible about a man who wanted to go bananas. He was getting kind of crazy with some of the advice that he was given, and yet it was the very remedy, the very healing that he needed. We're talking about a guy in the Bible whose name is Naaman. Naaman. And Naaman is cured in this story. But here's what you need to realize about Naaman. Naaman, he's not from Israel. He's not a member of God's people. In fact, he was one of the enemies. He was from the kingdom of Syria. In fact, he was a commander in the army of the Syrians, and the Syrians had kind of come through Israel and mowed down the people and taken some people captive. In fact, he had in his own household a servant girl who was an Israelite girl who had been removed from her home and taken away by the bad people, the Syrians. All right, so you got the story here, but here is Naaman's problem. Naaman develops a condition called leprosy. And leprosy, what it does is it shows up on your skin as white marks and stuff. Now, modern leprosy, the way that happens is you lose your ability to feel. And so imagine if you didn't ever experience pain. Sound pretty cool, right? Unless you had your hand on the stove and didn't even know it, or under the hot faucet, or slammed in the car door, right? We need pain in order to realize, hey, stop doing what you're doing, change it. And so people with the modern condition of leprosy, they're always hitting themselves and beating themselves up on accident, and it's making all these marks and damage on their skin. Well, in the ancient world, that might have been what the Bible's describing when it comes to leprosy. Maybe it was some other kind of skin condition, but whatever it was, you didn't want to get it. In fact, you would have to then live off by yourself because people didn't want to get sick, and you'd have to be away from your family and your loved ones. It's a miserable condition. And this man has it. And here's how he's going to get help. We're talking about healing humility. Healing humility that Naaman experiences. So he is sad. Life's not going well for him, all these problems he's facing. But then the servant girl says, you know what? In my home, in Israel, there's a prophet. And his name, and you know it, kids, his name is Elisha. And he could help you. And so, apparently, Naaman is convinced, all right, well, I've tried everything that I know to do, so I'm going to go to Israel. I'm going to find this prophet. And so he loads up. He brings all these camels, and he loads them up with gold and silver and, a new wardrobe, all these new changes of clothes and outfits. And he rolls into town because Naaman, he's a rich man. He's an important man, and he knows money talks, and it can get the job done. And so if I need help, I'm going to go in with my entourage, and we're going to get things done. And he shows up at the palace of the king, and he says, all right, I'm here. I've got my checkbook. Can I have one healing, please? And the king tears his clothes, and he's all freaking out. He's like, why does this guy think I can heal him? Am I some kind of god? Are you trying to start a fight, start a war between our countries? What's going on here? So he goes berserk. Naaman ends up all confused. But meanwhile, Elisha has found out that Naaman has come into town. Maybe God revealed it to him. And so he sends word, Naaman, come to the house of the prophet Elisha, and you'll receive help. And so Naaman brings all his stuff and all his money on over to Elisha's house and knocks on the door, expecting to receive this nice warm welcome. Instead, there's a servant named Gehazi who opens the door and says, hey, Naaman, how's it going? Here's the message that Elisha sent me to tell you. You see that river over there, the Jordan River? Go ahead and wash in it 7 times, and you'll be healed. Please and thank you. And that's it. Naaman doesn't know what to do with this. Are you telling me this Elisha guy, he didn't even want to come to the door? He didn't even want to introduce himself to me? Does he even know how important I am? I'm the boss. I take care of things. I am in charge here. And you're just going to send your servant to tell me to go take a bath in a dirty river? Don't I have enough rivers back home? Why do I need to come over to Israel to do this? And so he is grumpy. He's not having it. But he is told to trust in the Lord. And so he has to do something that is humbling. Humility is recognizing who you are before God, seeing your need, that you're not as important as you think. And he goes and he washes in the Jordan River, and he lets the muddy water roll over him 7 times, and his leprosy is healed, just like that. Now, we're going to find out what happens next in the story in a moment, but let's go bananas again. Let's find out what are some of these things when it comes to their scale. How much does 100,000 toothpicks weigh in bananas? Not many bananas, but either 30 or 88. So, bigger number, smaller number, what do you think, kids? Let's show them. 88 bananas for 100,000 toothpicks. Moving along. How many bananas deep is the Grand Canyon? 6,000 or 10,000? Don't even know how to begin to figure that out. Let's go ahead and show them. 10,432 bananas deep. Bring that many with you next time you go for a visit. How much does 100 toothbrushes weigh in bananas? Now, I bet you could do this experiment right now. Go get your toothbrush, go get some bananas, stick them on a scale, weigh them out. Probably too messy, so let's just go ahead and check it out. 26 bananas for 100 toothbrushes. How much does $100 in quarters weigh in bananas? We're too many layers deep on this question. So $100, but in quarters, how much does that weigh? And then once you figure that out, convert it on the metric scale of bananas, and we have, 20 bananas. for that. All right. I think we got one more of these things. How high is Mount Everest in bananas? Wow. 49,712 or 94,004. Such specific numbers. How do they arrive at this? Well, either way, what's the answer? 49,712 bananas. You have been educated this morning. Now, pause the video, go grab a banana, get a quick snack. But we're jumping back in now to the story about Naaman. We've seen the healing humility that he needed, but now let's talk about some deadly pride that also shows up in this story. So remember, one of the guys I mentioned a moment ago was Elisha's servant named Gehazi. Maybe one day you want to name your pet as a name for you, but you might not want to name him Gehazi because of what happens to this dude in the story. So Gehazi is a little greedy. Gehazi thinks he's somebody. Gehazi wants to have nice clothes and cool stuff and be important, and his pride gets the best of him. You know what? Because Naaman offered all that stuff, the gold, the silver, the clothes, to Elisha. And Elisha said, no, you can't purchase a healing from God. Your money and your power and your wealth and your self-worth, none of that is enough to be healed. God gives it freely to someone who's willing to open his hands and humble himself. Well, Gehazi runs back to Naaman and says, you know what, after all, hey, we have some house guests, some prophets came by and they need some food and some clothes, and, since you offered, maybe you could help us out. And so Gehazi takes all those things from Naaman. Being greedy, being prideful, goes back home. Elisha says, hey, what you been up to? And he's like, I just was having another conversation with Naaman, nothing much. And he says, well, why are you lying? Because Naaman's leprosy is now going to be yours. Gehazi thought he could trick God, thought he could work his own way, get after and grasp after what he wants by his own means, even if he had to lie and cheat to do it. And he ends up sick. He's sick on the outside in a way that shows how sick he was on the inside. And listen, this is true of all of us. We are sick on the inside of our hearts. But here's the good news. That's what Jesus has come to heal us of. Jesus in his own day, he dealt with prideful people who thought they were somebody. They were called the Pharisees. They thought they were important. They thought that their good deeds and their wealth made them close to God. And yet he reminded them, you know what? God sent Naaman to Elisha the prophet. Naaman was an outsider. He was a Syrian. He was an enemy. He was somebody that everybody was looking down their nose on. And those are the people that Jesus is ministering to now. And you have to humble yourself to receive his mercy. You have to admit you're sick and not just be proud of who you are. But when you do that, Jesus, the blood he shed, it's like that river. It will wash you clean. It will heal you on the inside. And one day, Jesus will heal all of his people on the outside as well. Kids, he's worthy of our trust. This is good news worth believing, and we'll talk about more of it next Sunday. See you then.